What is up, everybody? It's Reverse here today. We have another update with the Activision Blizzard deal going through. Apparently, Sony has made a ridiculous statement to the regulators saying that Microsoft's true intentions behind this Activision Blizzard acquisition is to make PlayStation become like Nintendo and not compete in the 18 rated shooter space. Now, this is so ridiculous. It's like, really? It's like Sony, it's just so pathetic at this point. Sony acts like they don't own Bungie. The people who make the Destiny games act like they literally just don't own that studio. Or they don't own these other shooter franchises that they licensed they had before in the past, like the Killzone, SOCOM, Resistance IPs, or they can even make a brand new one. They act like they literally just can't do that. It's just insane right now. Just the fact that they made this statement is just so comical. It's just super ridiculous. And this is not the only crazy statement they made either. They made another crazy statement as well, saying that Sony has claimed that Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal could hurt developers and lead to the price rises and a new response to the UK regulator. SIE said, faced with weaker competition, Microsoft will be able to increase console and game prices for Xbox users, including those that switch from PlayStation, increase the price of Game Pass, and reduce innovation and quality. But isn't that what Sony did, though? Didn't Sony increase their game prices and consoles? I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. Sony's been complete hypocrites, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, it's just like, this is getting more ridiculous and ridiculous by the day. Each time we get more updates about this story, it just gets more ridiculous from Sony's side of things. It's like you can compete with Call of Duty. It's like you have so many different teams who can make video games. You got so many different IPs. There's 18 plus rated shooter games. So they can compete with Call of Duty. They just literally just don't want zero competition. They just want to compete at all against Call of Duty, which is kind of sad, to be honest. Damn, so Microsoft can stop Sony from making 18 plus rated shooters by buying Activision Blizzard? What an argument. They have a bunch of shooter IPs they're currently choosing not to use. And I don't know what, and that's Sony's fault. That's not anybody else's fault but Sony. The fact that they just pretty much just abandon all those shooter IPs. Ah, yes, the rated E for everyone PlayStation game God of War. Good thing no one bought it. Oh, wait. PlayStation is just comical at this point. Yeah. This turned out to be one of their biggest selling games, the fast selling first party launch title, God of War. Within a week or so, 5.1 million, which is kind of insane for Sony. Sony only makes one genre of game. Also, Sony, Xbox can have more game diversity than us. No. Even Sony fanboys gotta admit, Sony's just saying anything at this point. They are, and it's just getting sad and pathetic at this point. Become like Nintendo. Considering how big of a deal Sony says console sales are to them, maybe they should take a look at how Nintendo has been doing with that lately. Extremely successful for decades, Nintendo companies will beg for the history Nintendo has had. Sony owns Bungie and Destiny, one of the best shooter devs and one of the biggest shooters, and they own great shooter franchises like SOCOM and Resistance. Yeah, but they're still crying about it, which is crazy. They could compete, they just become too reliant on the same third-person action walking sim type games and refuse to put money into anything else, so they rely on third-party FPS sales for that niche. Sony is lazy and their fans are complacent. So much facts in that statement right there. Yeah, don't they got I just thought about it. They got a new factions game, a Last of Us game coming out, multiplayer game coming out. So that fits the shooter niche right there too. So, Sony literally makes their own 18 plus games. They're literally making a Last of Us multiplayer game, and they're still complaining. Like, don't be sorry, Sony. Be better. Use other assets for FPS games. Call of Duty is the only one, albeit the most popular. Sony, Microsoft may force us to make interesting games for once. Did Sony just hire 60-year-old PlayStation fans to make these arguments? Yeah, the arguments just don't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that a grown man would make these arguments. It has to be some type of children making these arguments for Sony, to be honest. They have all those Halo killer shooters they made. Yeah. They didn't accomplish the goal, but you can still resurrect them to compete with Call of Duty at least. Uh, uh, that makes no sense. You have Bungie, Insomniac, Gorilla. You can definitely compete. They just don't want to. They don't want to compete. The truth comes out. They really don't want to compete against Xbox. I'm sorry, does Sony not own Naughty Dog, makers of The Last of Us, Guerrilla, makers of Killzone, and Sonic, makers of Resistance, and so on? Sony has several studios who made Pedigree 18 rated shooters. All they have to do is actually make more of those games. Hey, Sony, you're gonna cry. Sounds like a lot of crying is going on, especially Jim Ryan to these regulators. That's what it sounds on. That's what it sounds what's going on. Sony isn't competing in any space. So basically, Nintendo is getting dragged into something that doesn't require them because the other two are just sore losers. Pretty much. PlayStation and Xbox actually started to compete with them by doing the exact same crap they've been doing for decades. uh, is Sony so effing brain dead that they forgot about the FPS titles they could revive? Apparently, that's too much for Sony to do. They just want to rely on the same template where some older guy carrying some young child across some type of apocalypse setting. They want to go they just want to rely on that same template. It's a big cinematic fest right there. Every Sony statement on this becomes increasingly more insane and desperate. This is just funny at this point. Resistance and Killzone in the back wonder when they'll get some type of attention or a good game. Yeah. Let's look more on the crazy statement they said that, hey, Microsoft might raise the price of consoles and games. It's like, how can Sony even make a statement like this? Like, it's like complete hypocrisy. I love PlayStation, but reading through their statements in this case is generally shocking some of the things they've been saying. I think deep down, Sony themselves know they don't have a strong case and are just throwing a lot out there and seeing what sticks pretty much at this point. Like, their arguments make any sense at all. They also essentially raised the PS Now price too. Kind of did with that merger, PS Plus and PS Now. They kind of did raise the price of everything. Their balls or the ruples. Sony's argument basically boils down to random BS go. This is honestly the best part of this public spat. LOL, Sony is dragging themselves through the mud with hypocritical statements like this, and that Battlefield sucks compared to Call of Duty. And Microsoft saying that their exclusives can't even compete to Sony's. The timing of the CMA releasing Sony's and Microsoft statements with God of War selling 5.1 million copies in a week is comical. Jim Ryan is without shame. He will literally say anything at this point. It's a joke. It's almost like they didn't even bother to read any of their points before they put them across. I'm not a console fanboy, I own both, but the hypocrisy of Sony right now is off the scale. Well, what they mean is that they don't want their competitors to do it first. It's so transparent. They also said their price increase was because of their dominant position, because adverse economic global situations, which is BS, but didn't raise it in the US, LOL, so they are quite audacious. Sony is being hypocritical here, but that shouldn't take away from the general point that decreasing competition could put Microsoft in a position where they could demand anything and their demands would have to be met because they're producing the majority of the gaming content, that's not even true, but okay. Jim Ryan, Sony is so messy. Sony is really out here going, do as I say, not as I do. Hypocrisy. This sounds like a bunch of crap. Sony, I know these things are true because I do them myself. Pretty much telling them what their business motto is to raise the price of everything. During the PS4 age, PlayStation was very consumer friendly. Now PlayStation and Jim Ryan are basically Sith Lords and anti-consumer. Same company that makes you buy the same game twice if you want the PS5 version. They are literally using every business practice they've ever taken advantage of as reasons as to why Microsoft could become predatory. It's just hilarious. Bro, this whole little interaction, this whole Activision Blizzard deal, these public like interviews and stuff we're seeing, discussions, it's just sounding crazier and crazier from Sony's side of things. It's just like they sound like complete hypocrites. It just doesn't, nothing they say, the arguments that just making any sense whatsoever. So it's just ridiculous at this point. Yeah, this seems hella hypocritical of them considering the exact scenarios of what they're doing themselves when faced with weaker competition. Sony's scared. I question a lot of Sony's choices in the last days of the PS4 cycle, and to this day, what the hell are they even doing at this point? Yeah, so I think it's a good point to conclude that. It's kind of ridiculous that they truly just don't want to compete with Call of Duty. They have a plethora of licenses and studios that can make these shooter games, the 18 plus rated shooter games that can compete with Call of Duty. They simply don't want to. They just really don't want to. They're that scared of Call of Duty, and it's kind of sad at this point. So I definitely conclude right here. I want to see your thoughts down below about this. Leave a like this video, and as always, thanks for watching, and peace.